Welcome to the Santa Cruz Coffee Break. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcast, please follow, hit the like button, or any subscribes. It really helps us with the algorithms. Santa Cruz Coffee Break is produced by the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum. All opinions are those of the speakers. We invite you to join us on the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum at SCGCPF for more fun. Now, let's get on with this installment of Santa Cruz Coffee Break.
There she is.
What'd I miss?
We were talking about strings.
You need some lines across that background with a height marker or something.
Right?
It looks great. It looks great. Cue intro. Let's do this, guys, because I got a hard
Yeah,
stop.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No,
That's
no
okay.
worries.
Okay, go.
Well, first of all, we'd like to welcome everybody to the 33rd podcast of Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum. And we're doing something a little bit different today. Two of our artists have been involved, Jamie Stillway and Eric Skye have been involved in a collaborative project together. And so what we're going to do is they're going to talk about how they made it and how it started and it got together. And let me make sure I introduced Jamie Stillway and Eric Skye, of course, down on the bottom, and Tad's up there. So ready, steady, folks, let's go. Tell us
Right
about
on,
that.
man.
Tell us about this,
Go.
Jamie. How'd you guys figure it out?
Which part?
The beginning. We're just starting.
Have we figured anything out yet?
At the beginning.
Well, okay, Eric, if I may, I will tell the
Mhm.
story of how we, I'll just start at the beginning. So I first met Eric at the Healdsburg Guitar Festival in the year, I believe, 2013 or somewhere thereabouts. We had both heard of each other for years, both living in Portland. And so we met in Healdsburg, and then, Eric had invited me over for dinner shortly thereafter. And I went over and, we were like, let's pick some tunes. And I think, we both sort of like admitted it, like we both liked flat picking, while we were both pretty much thinking each other were in the finger picking world. So we then, would sometimes get together over the years and flat pick fiddle tunes. And then now here we are in 2021, I think 2021 with an album.
Nicely
Made it
done.
official.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I remember it going down as well. I mean, I remember when I first kind of got on Team Santa Cruz, when Willie Carter was doing artist relations, or whatever, he said, oh, do you know Jamie Stillway? Because she's one of our artists too. I'm like, no. And he's like, she's in Portland too. I'm like, no, I didn't know that. And then I was playing somewhere and someone brought me one of your CDs and I had that. But then, it took a couple more years before we actually ran into each other at Healdsburg. So yeah, that's how it started.
Well, the album sounds fantastic. I think you guys have approached some things with a unbelievably interesting perspective. But it just sounds spectacular and stellar. How'd you make decisions on tunes?
You go, Jamie.
No, you go. I answered
Okay.
the other one first.
Well,
Your turn.
there was a handful of tunes that, so Jamie's right, like for a couple of years there, we would get together once in a while and have dinner and pick on the back porch, and we would play like standard fiddle tunes, like, the Red Hair Boy and things like that. And then we would kind of go down the rabbit hole with them. And we were both kind of like deconstructionist or whatever sometimes. And then, I around that time, just independently, I started writing a bunch of fiddle tunes and stuff. And so we kind of played some of those, like the Lock Tender's Reel and Coriel's Fairy. That's like kind of from a collection of tunes that I'd been working on. So we started playing those. And then when we did decide, hey, we should make a record, which was before this pandemic thing, not long before the pandemic. We made a couple videos. So then we were, let's write some more tunes, I guess. And so Jamie had the homework, because I had already had some tunes. So she had the homework to write some tunes. So that's where they came from. some waltzes,
Right.
right? Isn't there 3 waltzes? I think there's like, or like one's I guess a
2?
jig.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, I will admit that I just got a chance to hear it today. So for me, it's like one play through, and I can't wait to play it again. And I gotta say, my wife will be so thrilled, because when we go on long road trips, I like to put on Eric or Jamie, just because it's relaxing while I'm driving and enjoyable. And we've gotten to the point now where I think when we were driving up to Petaluma the other day, she was like, "Oh no, not Eric again." Now I can say, I have a new one.
oh good. Oh good.
You.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun to listen to, because there's just like, I don't know, we get pretty out there and I mean, I think if you're like really into old time traditional music, you'll probably leap from a building or something, right? Because it gets pretty out there. But I think that what I like about records like that is that, yeah, you can listen to it kind of, over and over, and maybe hear different things each time, maybe. So
Well,
That's what I noticed for sure.
yeah, I've only had a chance to listen to it once, and I gotta say, my immediate impression was, if you closed your eyes, it was feeling like you guys were just hanging out in the living room and playing. I mean, it was just a very natural, enjoyable listening experience. I guess that's due to just the way you guys work together.
yeah, I think that's true. I mean, one comment I'll make just from the mixing perspective is I kept coming back to this idea, like one of the big decisions you make in a stereo recording when there's 2 artists, right, a duo, is how much on the left and how much on the right, panning, like where are things. And I just kept kind of coming back to like, all right, I'm in the first row in a small house concert. These 2 people are like 6 or 8 feet in front of me and maybe 2 or 3 feet from each other. And what does that sound like? So, which is a long-winded way of saying, thanks for the compliment, because I think that's exactly what we were kind of hoping for. It's just like, it's just happening. It's not like, there's not really a time when I think 2 acoustic guitar players are on like a giant stage 30 feet apart, right? And a lot of recordings kind of sound like that. So anyway.
That's a really interesting description of kind of space and how that separates, and yet you keep that interwoven flow going.
I just want to say, like, once Eric and I think maybe when we did our first sort of gig, remember at the Portland Guitar Society, Eric, and we and it was like, I think I remember at that time being like, oh wow, it's for this project, it's really important that we sit kind of close together and like our guitars are facing one another, because that is just such a big part of how I approach this music and hear it. It's such a dialogue with Eric, and if I'm not like fully present in it, it's not the same. And I'm delighted to hear that perhaps that translated to a recording also.
That's great that you mentioned that. I forgot that moment, and that totally stuck in my mind. Like it kind of still does, like sometimes with students that, well, not necessarily with COVID, but like getting close, there's a certain point where you're not across the room. And by across the room, I mean like 10 feet apart, but you're right in and really listening. And so when Jamie and I set up in the studio to make that album, we were directly across from each other, like she just said. And I think I remember measuring it was like exactly 2 feet apart or something. It was like what we decided was the perfect distance to hear each other and ourselves.
I kind of, when I was thinking about it and listening to it, this is going to sound a little weird, but the visualization I got was an egg slicer, because the way that you guys are blending, first of all, your guitars and the notes, but there's really, like an egg slicer, there's still space, and yet everything kind of, I don't know, everything kind of goes like that. I just had that real weird visualization when I was listening to it. Going, wow, this is it. It just fits. Everything just fits. It's beautiful stuff. Really, really beautiful stuff.
Thanks, guys.
Jamie, did you have a a special song that you really loved on here?
The diplomatic answer is I love them all equally.
We aren't talking kids here.
I think, well, I will just say like some of these songs. Well, I'm going to talk about Wartime Annie, because that's one that like I had written in. So a couple of these were written in the pandemic. So Eric and we had to like learn these songs on our own. And so that is one that was like the first time we played it was in the studio, basically. And so I think that that's really fun, that sort of the new spirit, like just being like, we're both approaching that song with like, I don't know how this is going to go. Let's see what happens. So that was fun and also kind of terrifying, but it worked.
That one scared me too, because I think it was in, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it like F minor, or no, it was like F Phrygian or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's like several bars of 2 that pop up in a tune that's otherwise 4/4, and so yeah, to kind of like, okay, take a guitar solo, okay, just jump. Yeah, that was fun. That was definitely music finding its way.
Well, that's an interesting comment, Jenny. Eric said earlier that you kind of had the homework to do because he had some songs written. Did you write your stuff thinking about playing with Eric, or did you just write?
Yeah. So on this album, we each have 4 tunes, and my 4 tunes were specifically written for this project.
Okay.
Wow.
Yep.
That's really. Okay, let's geek out on the microphones a little bit. Let's go crazy on the setup.
You sure you don't want to talk about guitar strings? Okay, microphone.
I want a little microphone insight here.
Really simple. I brought in a pair from home of KM 184s, Neumanns. So, I mean, that's a pretty standard small diaphragm condenser microphone. It's a microphone that I really like a lot. It's got a big sound. Sometimes on the internet, it gets criticized for being much brighter than the original 84s, but yeah, that was pretty much it. We did some test runs. We recorded some other stuff like the YouTube videos, and then I think that we had one rehearsal. Like, didn't you come like a few weeks before? Yeah, and we had sort of set up some things, and I tried some stuff on my own. But yeah, it ended up just being really simple. So just about 8 inches, which we decided was a chopstick. So I brought 2 chopsticks. So 1 chopstick away from the 12th fret, pointed up the neck a little bit. Boom. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember being in when you did a certain kind of blue. I remember there being about 15 live mics in the studio or something like that. Like they were.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. It was like 5 or something. But yeah, but they're yeah. But more is definitely not better. More can be a problem. I think even with that, I think we ended up like you set up the mics, but they maybe didn't make the final mix. I know that's sometimes the case. But yeah, because we did have some. So we recorded at a studio here in Portland. My friend Corey has a studio called Sisterly Silence, which is a really cool little space, and he had set up some biodynamics as room mics or whatever, but I don't. It's not like a big room. It didn't seem to add anything, so it's really just those 2 microphones.
Wow, that's kind of shocking considering I've heard it really good, and it's really kind of shocking that it's just those 2. I expected a list.
Well, like I said, less is more because then you don't have phase cancellation. So I just,
Sure.
for me, the most important thing in recording is that I like the sound of things seeming like they're very immediate and right. I'm kind of a headphone listener. Like I like to, so I just like things to be really immediate and close. And I think that's how you get there. So microphones are close and very few of them.
Did the guitars remain the same all the way through?
Jamie, how many guitars did you play?
One.
Tell
The
us-
guitars remain the same. Is
Yeah,
There could be a song there.
maybe.
that a Led Zeppelin album?
Even a, yeah,
Yeah.
even an album. Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah, so the last time we were here, Tad and Richard, I was talking about that guitar that I had ordered that I had not received yet, you may recall.
Mhm.
And so that guitar did arrive in December. And so then I feverishly got acquainted with it over the months. And that is the guitar that I used on this album.
Oh, outstanding.
Yeah. And I love the way it sounds with Eric's guitar. I think that, just they complement each other really well. And I think, you can really hear the two different voices. which
Yeah, I
like.
agree. Yeah, it was really fun to mix them because they're really similar, but they live in different kind of neighborhoods sonically. They have kind of like different mid-ranges or whatever, but they both have like a lot of sustain. Yeah, it's great. And Jamie's guitar is killer. I've gotten to know that guitar. But yeah, it sounds like an old guitar right out of the gate. Yeah, I remember when I was up in Vashon, I would just sit on the couch and play that one forever. So killer guitar.
So is that where the title "Home on the Midrange" comes from, or?
Yeah. I was like, Eric, say they both live on the mid-range. They're both home on the mid-range. Smooth.
Bum-ba-dee-da, bum-ba-dee-da. And I used my first 00 Skye, the one that's 10 years old, and it sounded really good. I put my third set of frets on it. So
Wow.
it was all ready to rock and intonating.
Wow,
So,
3
Three
sets of
sets of
frets.
frets in 10 years. Wow.
yeah, I kind of burned through them.
But you're a real big heavy string guy.
No, I just used the light gauge strings.
Oh.
But you're right. I did use the big strings for a long time, and but my hands are kind of like not what they were, and so gone with the light gauge. And it turns out the lights sound great anyway. So that was probably dumb. Yeah, it didn't make that big a difference.
Artwork, how'd it come up? We
Well,
haven't seen that. Yeah, how's the artwork?
how did the artwork come up?
Yeah.
Well, so my girlfriend Ara doodled one day with her daughter, and she sent a photo of it, and it's like actually like a regular size of paper, 8.5 by 11. And like I saw it and was like, oh, that's going to be the cover. Like somewhere in that piece of art is the cover. And I think I sent it to you that day, Eric, and was like,
Yeah.
what do you think? Because it's sort of you've seen the cover, right, Richard and Tad? Have you seen it?
I have not seen the cover.
Oh, you haven't seen the cover? Well,
No,
it's sort
I
of like
haven't.
really, it's abstract, and I think it fits perfectly because I think it's like it's a very abstract take on traditional music. So
Great.
I'm texting it to you right now.
I was like, Eric's doing something. He's like,
yeah.
We'll make
Yeah,
sure.
I'm checking my stock portfolio. Just
yeah,
hold on a
he's like,
second.
boring.
He has a huge cup of coffee there, and I'm like ready to leap through the internet to grab some of it.
Not anymore. And I'm ready to leap through anything right now. It's like, I went out for coffee already with my friend Bruce, and then had some this morning. Yeah. Anyway, so you just got the cover. Yeah, the cover is amazing. I saw it. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, it looks so good. I'm so
Cool.
excited about it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you agreed. I was thinking we needed something that wasn't just like, two guitars or
Yeah.
like Eric and I cheesing it up with our
Yeah.
guitars.
That is
So-
Leaning up
beautiful.
against a brick wall.
Yeah.
No, looking up. Both of you leaning
Yeah.
over the camera and looking up with a wide angle lens. Beautiful,
Yeah.
guys. Wow.
Isn't that so cool?
Yeah, I love the fonts as well.
Yeah, fonts. I'm a big font dork. So
Yeah,
funny. I was like, my friend Maliki helped do the layout. And so, especially when there's not much on there, you really got to choose the right font.
oh boy. Yeah,
Yeah.
you really do. But that is, I love it. Boy, there's a lot of
I think
wonderfulness in that cover.
I sort of feel like it looks like one of, there's moments in our sort of improvisation when we're both just soloing at the same time, and anyway, that's what it looks like to me. That's kind of what it feels like on the inside, I think, of my head when we're in that moment. It's just like, it's sort of like country counterpoint, we're just, it's just happening. I don't know. It's just,
And I love that there's like the diagonal line in it to sort of like, there's a line through our songs. There's a grounding point in there.
yeah.
And then we're also like,
yeah.
see you at the end.
Yeah. That's it. That's the end of the interview. That basically encapsulates what it's like. It's like Dixieland music, kind of, it's just like, it's just everybody's playing the melody at the same time, but somehow it's like, yeah, that was all of me, I think.
I wish you guys had more fun together.
I know.
Wish you could laugh a little bit more. You know,
Should we talk about any of the songs? I mean, I thought it would be fun to get a little insight on some of the songs, where they came from or anything that just,
Sure.
I'm hoping that we're going to be allowed to include little snippets from the album in the podcast so that people get a little sense of that.
Mhm.
Or we could just scat the songs.
My
Eric,
attorney will call you. Yeah, we go down the list. Yeah, just we could do a rapid fire.
Well, I just thought maybe there were one or two that were particularly poignant or important or had some particular significance.
Yeah, well, Jamie said Wartime Annie. I would go with another Jamie tune because I was working on it this morning, which is the Hazelnut Grove. That's another one that was, it wasn't last minute, but that was a pretty new tune. And I really was also, whoa, just kind of feet to the fire in the studio, like, oh yeah, what am I going to play over this? And it's, sometimes tunes are, the structure is just such that I'm just like, not sure, are we back at the beginning yet? Or I'm not, and it was just kind of one of those tunes. And so I remember we did it a few times, and then I wasn't sure, sort of if we got it or whatever. And then going back and listening to it later, I'm like, oh my God, this is like my favorite tune. I like several times I texted Jamie, I want this to be the first song on the album. She's like, no, but I really love that tune. So actually, Jamie, maybe you could tell us more about that tune, because what's the story on that one?
Well, that is like the first song I wrote when I moved to Vashon, and like looking out of the window was a bunch of hazelnut trees, which I at the time thought, wow, this is like so romantic. Maybe there was an old hazelnut orchard here, and like Hazelnut Grove, doesn't that sound nice? And then I have since come to realize they are just like the gnarliest, grossest growing plant. And they're just like giant weeds, and they're so squirrely. And I think it's so funny that I ended up writing a squirrely tune. And I'm like, well, that makes sense, that this is a hard to keep track of, hard to get out of the ground.
Right. little nebulous.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a great tune.
I just want to say, I think that, for me, all of them were so fun because Eric and I hadn't had an opportunity to play guitar together for like a year and a half. There was a little something that went down. So then I think a lot of the album for me is just this like, we're getting to play guitar again. So, and I like the first song, Lock Tender's Real. It's that one is a song that we had been playing, that's one of our earliest songs we played together. And I think there's this familiarity in that tune, and especially in the sections of improv toward the end, that I'm just like, oh, I love it so much, because it's so fun. And it's just like, yeah, that for me was like a reunion tour of playing with Eric, but in the studio. So
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way.
Well, guys, you've been more than generous with your time. The album comes out soon, or actually the album comes out today. We'll make today then.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Today
Time
is
travel.
then.
Yeah, we'll time travel and we'll go.
That wasn't a
back.
lot of coffee.
Yeah. But thanks for the insights. Thanks for really opening up a little bit. And the creative process is so fantastic. This is what I had hoped would come from COVID. It's all these little projects that are just coming out, and they're just really special. And we're hearing a lot of new music, and everybody, rather than watching Days of Our Lives, apparently everybody got busy.
Yeah.
And went to work.
Some of us were practicing while we were watching Days of Our Lives. That wasn't me. I just remember my mother used to watch that when I was a kid. Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, so if you're I should just, put on the music business hat. So I think when this comes out, you could go to either one of our websites, ericskye.com or jamiestillway.com, and you can figure out like how to listen to it and whatnot. I did procure Jamie Stillway and ericskye.com, but at the moment, I haven't really done anything with it, but that'll eventually have it. But it'll be on Amazon and Spotify and Apple Music and Pandora, and just basically everywhere where you can find music. Should be really easy to find.
Will there be a vinyl?
No, I don't think so.
I hope not. Just 'cause I have another album coming out, and it's going to be on vinyl, and the vinyl delays, if you haven't heard the news.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're all in the LA harbor outside of Long Beach. There's 78 ships or something down there with a lot of people's records.
Yeah, it's like a year out. So if we did vinyl, maybe on the anniversary edition someday. Yeah.
But you are going to do a CD version, correct?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we have CDs, and so people can contact us directly, and we're happy to ship you a CD anywhere in the world.
Great. Tad, got anything?
I just want to remind everybody, all this information is going to be on the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum website, and we'll make sure there's a splash, or I should say, Richard will make sure there's a splash screen with all the text that you can freeze frame and type it into the browser of your choice and be able to get all this information. So yeah,
Great.
Thank you guys. That's
Great. Thank you.
Really looking forward to this one. So
Yeah, can't wait to see it and hear it in the world.
yeah.
Go have an afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much.
okay, you
Thank
too.
you.
Over and out.
We hope you enjoyed this installment of the Santa Cruz Coffee Break. For more music-related fun, please join the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum at SCGCPF or santacruzguitarplayers.com. If you have any questions or possible podcast topics, please contact us. If you have a product or service that you feel would be of value to our listeners, please consider adding your support and keeping the coffee pot on. Contact us for more information. We ask that you hit the like, follow, bell, or bookmark buttons so we can keep you informed of upcoming podcast episodes. We hope you enjoyed Santa Cruz Coffee Break. Now it's time to go play your guitar.